Thank you very much. So my name's Paul. I'm head of recruitment at National Express. I've been in volume recruitment for probably the last 4 years in-house. I did 10 years agency side before that. And I've worked in facilities management, corporate hospitality as part of volume. Even did a 12-month stint in the police, which was completely different. If you want to talk about diversity later, I can bore you with stats till the cows come home. But yeah, look, I want to go through a bit more. This probably leads more into the candidate experience and going into the process and the way that when I've gone into these new businesses, I've approached volume recruitment and then how we've changed it as we've gone along. So who in the room when they first got into volume recruitment felt like this guy? Probably all of us, yeah? I think it's completely natural. I think nobody, unless you're very unlucky, no one starts in volume recruitment. We start recruiting 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and then we end up doing 1,000 all of a sudden. So it's completely normal to feel like this. Just to get a bit of a gauge in the room, how many people, let's say, are hiring 10 a week? Okay, 100 a month? Anyone over that? I know you are at the back. To give you an idea in terms of volumes that I deal with, we probably hire, I think we made 200 offers last week. We'll hire somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 this year. That's across the UK, Spain and Germany. And believe it or not, it's not just bus drivers that we do. We've got a 200-seat call centre, big corporate offices. We do trains in Germany, so it's a bit of everything. So look, I'm going to go through here the main points of the presentation will be how to identify the problems, where our key pain points are, what does it good look like, and how do we get the change in. So the first thing I do whenever I go into a business and look at is mapping our candidate journey. Now, quite often, we've all seen this, we talk about attraction, we go screening, interview and offer. And quite often all we look at when we do this is our own process, and we want to make sure that the stuff we're doing, we're happy with. We don't actually look at what the different actions are needed by both sides. So quite often we do the bottom one, but we don't do the top one. So we'll do a company action, but we won't do a candidate action. Now, I've just put an example on here. This is every part for our bus drivers, because ultimately that's the majority, probably 2,000 of the 3,000 that we do a year through that. So this gives you an understanding. When I came in and mapped it out, it was looking at every single point to try and work out where my pain points were. I won't bore you too much for that. So that then led me on to do some modelling. So I know Mabeen is a bit of an expert on this, we'll be on later. Stats are key to volume recruitment. If you're doing volume recruitment, it's easier to be stats-led than in any other format because you've got more. So you can make more informed decisions. There's no room for anomalies if you're getting 3,000 people in a year. So after that, I was looking at, right, what does it take for me to get 100 starters? So I use that as my baseline. And I kind of looked through this. From looking at it, from offer to start, we had a 40% dropout. So that means I need 140 to be offered. Between interview and offer, we had a 30% success rate. You can see where this is going. We then had another 30% dropout between interviews booked and attended. So it goes higher. Then another 30% dropout. It's a common theme here, isn't it? From the initial SIFT interview. Now, I'm not actually too worried about that because that's fine. That's something we're in control of. And then we had half of our candidates who applied we never got in contact with. So that means I had a magic number of, for me to hire 100 people, I needed 980 people in the top, which is a lot. 10% roughly apt to start. So that means a year for my hires that I need 24,500 per year. It's a massive, massive number. And especially if we're talking about attraction, the bigger the number, the harder it gets, obviously. So we did some changes, and I'll go through the changes in a little bit, but we ended up with something slightly different. Our offer to start date changed. Our interviews attended to then the offer changed. Again, we're looking at the quality of this process. Our interviews booked dropout rate, that changed. Our initial SIFT, similar-ish, but I think our attraction was more effective, so we were getting better people through. So we weren't losing as many at the top. And if anyone wants to talk to you about attraction at volume, feel free to grab me after. Still don't get hold of this 50%. I think from a volume point of view, don't be upset if they never come back to you. as far as I'm concerned, when I report applications to my boss and all the board, I only start with the number after that stage, because that's the point they're engaged in the process. Anything before that, and they're not. So that made it 485 instead. So we're 20% apt to offer. So if we're looking at that over a year, and as amazing as my attraction may or may not be, I'd quite like to be able to only need 12,000 less than I thought I needed. So look, it's a very basic way of looking at it, but like I say, if you're going to model your recruitment process, start with the stats and then work back from there. How? So, just do it. Famous company said that once, didn't they? So, quite often, I've got a real thing about, and I'm sorry if anyone's ever worked in this arena, business excellence project teams who have to take you through this big transformation project, and they put all the post-its all over the wall and all that stuff. They're not the experts. Ultimately, we're the experts. So when we are doing this, you should know the answer to the problem before they've pulled you into a room to say it. My boss says that I treat them like my administrators, not my project team, because I'm already telling them what we're doing. I've looked into it myself. I am the expert in what I'm doing. So look at the data, find your problem and create something simple. Again, with all those stages that I've mentioned, you can get into the habit of trying to change everything at once and going, go away for 2 weeks, write a new strategy and then drop it in and it'll work. It won't. We started at the bottom, we changed a few things at the offer stage and how we kept in contact with candidates, and then we moved our way back up until we got to the top. So these are the stages. I don't need to teach you about this, but I'll go through what we do at each of these stages as we go through. So traction, not just about applying anymore. So anybody watch Love Island? No, me neither. But so look, candidates and consumers, I think it was mentioned in the last talk, they need speed, they need to feel like they're in control, they need to feel like what we're doing is flexible for them. And I think we need to look at how we can apply that to the application process. Because again, a bit like that, our action versus their action, we tend to push our actions onto them and go, this is how we do things, you've got to fit in. Whereas we need to go back and change that. From a volume perspective, as soon as they are kind of getting through this attraction stage, what matters the most to the candidates in the market? If we talk about working from home, I'm not sure how my bus drivers will quite do that. So I've got to look at I've got to pull different levers for them than I have to pull for my call centre staffs. So again, one size doesn't fit all. And then how do you reach your mass market directly? Again, there's some great products out there from an advert point of view, but the real joy is when we get into this proactive pre-contemplation phase. Proactive, taking those jobs out to market to the people that would be interested in the role. From a simple point of view, if you think about an e-shot into a job board sector of a market. Pre-contemplation's the interesting one. We all fight over the first two pots, really. How many times do we actually take jobs out to people who've never thought about working in our industry? That's the little golden nugget. That's a pot of candidates that nobody goes after. I need to convince somebody who works in a warehouse to go and drive a bus, but has never thought about it. How do I get to those? And from a volume point of view, candidates are predominantly mobile-based suppliers, which stats show it. You have to make sure the golden rule is no more than 15 clicks. Now, it's not a click of a button, it's a thumbnail, isn't it? But no more than 15. The average UK process still, this was a bit of a survey done through Reed, still 43 clicks. That's a lot. And if we're getting somebody on their lunch break, they're 20 minutes off shift and they're quickly going through, 43 clicks, we're going to lose them. So, pre-interview, the first chat. As you can see, a bit of a theme here, isn't there? So, look, the quicker you can get them face-to-face, the better. Again, with volume, there's loads of tech interventions we can use, and we tend to sometimes let them take over all the way until the interview. So how can we not do that? So we need to hook them in early. From a speed point of view, we do not want to get stuck in email tennis, going back, forward, back, forward. In this stage, you can use some AI. We use some AI from a basic CV sifting point of view, but that's one of the only real tech interventions that we have at a higher level. Control. So once we do get to interview stage, which if a candidate, a candidate will get some interaction with us within an hour of applying. They will have a human interaction within 24 hours of applying. And bear in mind, I've only got a team of 20, 25, 24, 25. That's a lot of work for them to get to, but it's very structured in the way we do it. So we don't actually dictate. If we take the initial sift before we get to kind of a more formal interview stage, we don't control the timings, the candidate does. The candidate picks their own timing. We are fully flexible. And if we go back to that candidate choice, we're fully flexible with what they want, not what we want. I don't know if any of you have used Calendly before. We use that as our major kind of enabler. But Calendly's good. But if your hours don't fit around it, then it's pointless because you might as well just do 9 to 5, put yourself in. So from a volume perspective in here, you've got to keep in constant contact with them to encourage them to get onto the real process. So again, in this stage, we tend to sometimes get into emails. So we send an email to confirm this, an email to confirm that. Stats show 98% of texts are open within the first 3 hours. So use it. The top tip at this stage, so when I joined National Express, we did telephone screening at this stage. Why not do a video interview? It takes no more time. My team now will sit there in front of a computer. It means they have to get out of their pajamas in the morning, but it gives that human contact. I think during COVID, we went so far away from human contact into a fully digital recruitment process. And you'll find as I go through this, I'll talk about this human contact piece. That is what differentiates between what product you go for. It differentiates what coffee you buy in the morning as to who speaks to you better, doesn't it? So it's exactly the same in the job world. And if someone offers to do a video interview rather than a telephone, you'll think that the business is more committed. The date. So your effort will be reflecting their interest. I think, so this is where we go into kind of the interview / I hate the word assessment days, but this is where we go into this stage of the process. So again, with this, make sure it's face-to-face contact. And if possible, and this is what we try to do, is give people an individual experience through. In my eyes, if you're recruiting on a volume basis going forward, I think the day of the assessment day, half-day assessment day is gone. I don't think that works for people anymore. I think looking at the stats within our business, when we did do that, our dropout rate from that interview booked to interview attended, that was the stage where we were losing the most people. It's because we were going to ask them book from 9 till 12, come and do this, do 3 tests, out you go, interview someone out the other end. So we took that completely out. So we have a team who go onto site to run assessments. We run assessments every single day of the week. Again, flexibility. And they will be greeted by an individual the moment they walk through the door. So again, candidate experience is loads better when we're doing that. Facilities, from an environment point of view, how often are they put in the worst room in the office because that's the only place you've got space? Show off what you've got. If you've got a new office, show it off. Get them in the best place possible. And get the hiring managers involved at this stage. So yeah, there's no point getting them to date and then losing them. Hiring managers have to be trained. I think as a recruitment profession, we're still a little bit passive with hiring managers. If they're bad at interviewing, we'll warn the candidate they're bad at interviewing, but we won't actually dare go to whoever the hiring manager is and go, that isn't good enough. And yes, you'll ruffle a few feathers to start with, but again, go back to the original point, we're the experts. So why are we not educating them? And especially when it comes to assessment days, or whatever you want to call it, they get these wrong even worse, because all they're expecting to do is come, stand at the front, give a little talk, off they go. Whereas in reality, the people in the room are going to work for them. Is that really enough? So we give them access. That person is there for us for the whole day. We have a different person each day, but they're there for the whole day of assessments. Individuals can go and talk to them, interact with them, ask any questions, which again enhances this quality of experience. And at this stage, if competitions are fiercest, and this is why you need to differentiate what you're doing. Final recoupling. So you need to make sure you're the one and only obvious choice in this. So the reason I talk about all these human interactions and making how our product look better than everyone else's is because in volume recruitment, very rarely can we move the salary up. Because if we move, I know, for example, we've had some strikes and union stuff recently, which is always fun. And for every pound the salary went up, it cost the business 4.5 million. So you can't do that. So that's why all of this experience piece is even more important in a business like mine and probably businesses like yours. So this is like the true test of your process. So we went from losing 40% to losing 15% because we put some human interaction in again. And like it's the prime example. How many times I'll go through this assessment, and we always offer by email, don't we? The majority of the time, it's we're happy to confirm your offer. We're doing 200 a week, and we ring every single one to tell them, or we do it on the day if we can. So we will try and offer. It's easier actually if we can get it done in the day, and I target the team on getting it done in the day. But we will never be in a position where we offer by email. And we should be starting that onboarding process at the moment they're offered. We should be talking them through that. Because again, that's where you start to lose people. Because as far as our bosses are concerned, it doesn't matter whether we offer 200. If one starts, it's still our problem, isn't it? So leaving the villa. A bit out of touch really. It should have been Married at First Sight at the moment, shouldn't it? Right. So your work's not done. So we make sure that we contact every candidate weekly between their offer date and start date. We do not. We've reduced dropouts at this stage by 25%, and it's some people like it. Some people want to talk to you. Some people we ask them on their first interaction. You've got 4 weeks till you start. How often do you want us to contact you to check in and see how things are going? So we do it again. They have the choice. They have the flexibility. We will say, is it this certain time of day? Do you want the same as you've had before? It makes a real difference because I think we want to be like the one on the left where we're leaving happily with the candidate, not the one on the right here, which is what you see where we think we've done an absolutely great job, but the candidate knows you haven't because we haven't developed that personal relationship with them. So, key takeaways from, I suppose, what we've been talking through. So, always start with a data-led review, challenge then the norm of the process, work smarter. You don't always have to get more applications. More applications is not always the answer. Speed of process. I mean, to give you an idea, we can get somebody through, if they pick up the first time we ring them and they come to an assessment, the first chance they've got, they can be offered within 72 hours. Our general average is about 6 days at the moment for our trainees. So, I mean, if we're talking about kind of getting buy-in in the process, you lose a day or two, you lose the candidate. So be really hot on that. Volume candidates aren't just a number, make sure they feel special. All those little human touch points I gave you all the way through, don't lose sight of that. And then don't be afraid of the quick change. So don't wait for that project excellence team. Start at the bottom end of the funnel, start at offer start stage and work your way back through. But bit by bit, change the process. If you do it bit by bit, you'll probably get it done in as little time as you're going to do anyway, but it'll be more efficient. And in conclusion, just do it, get it done. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.